Hello, once again, and welcome to this week's episode of The Sports Station. I am Mark and Sarah. Joining me once again with another fine music choice, I must say, is Mike Eccles. Mike ambling in here in just a minute. Dan Graham, unfortunately, is not joining us today. He's on a little bit of a hiatus with his classes starting up at Centenary. He'll be back with us hopefully sometime soon, but in the meantime, you have myself, Mark and Sarah, and Mike Eccles to keep you company. And Mike, how are you doing this week?
Not bad, because I know it's the last week for NFL preseason games, and that means the season is less than 2 weeks away.
Absolutely. All of us have been kind of going on football fumes over the last few months waiting for that season to start, and it's finally, as you mentioned, it'll be a week away tomorrow. We're recording this on a Wednesday. So a week from tomorrow, we will finally be able to celebrate the return of NFL football.
And we really can't go by anything that's going to happen over the next couple of days when the final preseason games go on because nobody's going to play.
Right.
So we pretty much have a good idea of who's in place, who's going to play, who's not going to play, and I think it's time for us to do an NFL preview.
Oh, right on, Mike. Right on, brother. I think everyone's ready for this. Everyone's so excited for the season, and just as much as we are. And I love the fact that we're doing our NFL preview this week. We're going to dive right into it. We've got NFC to get to. We've got a million storylines going on the NFC, local storylines with the Giants and how they're going to compete this season, and also all the division winners. We'll give you all that, but we're starting in the American Football Conference, Michael.
The American Football Conference.
You don't hear them called by their full names that often. It's always AFC and NFC. You never hear American or National anymore.
And when you hear American Football Conference, you almost think American Football League. You think
Lamar
Hunt,
back to
you think
AFL.
Al Davis.
Mm-hmm. You think back to the old powder blue Chargers uniforms and the old blue Houston Oilers uniforms. Yeah, you think back a few.
And those powder blue Charger uniforms only cost you now $185 if you go on to some of those sites where you get the retro jerseys.
Oh, you can get it for much cheaper than that at some of the less legal sites or less legit sites.
Less legal sites.
Little shady.
Those websites that come up and then disappear before you know it.
That's right. I'm glad you brought up the Chargers, Mike, because that's where I want to start this preview. We'll get to the other divisions in a second with the AFC Western Division, which, of course, produced our AFC champion, the Denver Broncos, last season. A new team this year, obviously, in Denver. They got a few changes. They lost Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. They brought in Aqib Talib. They brought in T.J. Ward from the Browns, DeMarcus Ware from the Cowboys. They have a new squad, but probably I don't see a squad that's going to fall off too much. I still see the Broncos winning that division, Mike. What do you think?
Broncos are going to definitely win that division, but after what happened last week, it's not going to be as easy as we thought it would. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, is because of the questionability of Wes Welker. See, losing Eric Decker is one thing, but I still got Wes Welker, Peyton Manning is saying.
Right.
But now, if he does lose Wes Welker for a significant period of time, now the offense, it's going to struggle a little bit more than it did last year.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
now you've got two of their key weapons, not one, but two key weapons that are not going to be at Peyton's disposal.
You're exactly right. When you look at their depth chart, they have Demaryius Thomas, who's obviously a Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver, who's a fantastic wideout. But now you lose Wes Welker, who was kind of expected to be the safety blanket for Peyton Manning, which is what he was last season. Now you look at they signed Emmanuel Sanders away from the Steelers, who's a decent wide receiver who has some ability, but who's not the caliber of Eric Decker. It's going to be a poor replacement for Eric Decker if they're expecting that from him. They have Andre Caldwell and rookie Cody Latimer, who are guys you don't expect much, and they probably won't get much out of.
No.
But yeah, that becomes a much bigger question mark for Peyton Manning as to who he's going to be throwing those footballs to, because now it's easy. Now you just throw your best cornerback, you just double team Thomas, and you put, and he still has Julius Thomas, the tight end, but again, he's going to be with a lot fewer weapons than he had last season. I think you're exactly right, Mike. This is not going to be a team that's as good as they were last season, regardless of the improvements they made on defense.
Yeah, we're not going to see those numbers from Peyton Manning that we saw last year.
Oh, of course not.
But I have to tell you, though, as I look at the rest of the division, it still should be Broncos 12-4. I don't see anybody else in the division challenging them for the division title. I'm looking at the Chargers. I'm looking at the Chiefs. I'm looking at the Raiders.
Yeah.
None of them stand out to me as being ready to challenge the Broncos.
Well, yeah, none of those teams are up to the Broncos' caliber. I mean, few teams in the NFL are, much less the teams in the other teams in the AFC West.
Right.
But what do you think about because I think you've got two teams in that division who both teams ended up stealing the wild card in that division, the Chiefs and the Chargers. Ended up winning the wild card in that division, which I think both of the teams that compete for the wild card last year. What do you think about where the Chiefs and the Chargers are this season?
It all depends on if the Chiefs can continue the offensive presence they had last year.
Yeah.
and that, of course, all surrounds that great running back of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
If Jamal can come through with another consecutive great season, then I think the Chiefs have a chance. Certainly not for the division.
Of course.
And
yeah.
then I don't see I just don't see the Chiefs having enough to go further than the wild card game.
I agree. I think this is a team that's going to regress a little last year because if you remember from last season, they started out like a house of fire. They were undefeated for a while, and then they finished the season slumping, and that all culminated in that collapse in the playoff game in Indianapolis. And you're exactly right by bringing up Jamal Charles. He is basically their whole offense. You look at the rest of their offense, they don't have a great offensive line. They have Dwayne Bowe, but other than that, their group of receivers is kind of subpar. Alex Smith is an okay quarterback. He's far from elite. So if they, by some chance, lose Jamal Charles, a guy who has been injured in the past, who got hurt and missed an entire season basically a few years ago, this is a team that could be in pretty deep.
Yeah, I really don't see, when it comes to the rest of that division, there might be a wild card out of that? I certainly don't see two wild cards. If I do see a wild card coming out of there, possibly San Diego, and that's only because I really do have a lot of faith in Phillip Rivers. I do think he's a good quality quarterback. It's just, who does he have around him?
Former Giant, sort of.
Well, former
Rivers.
Giant for about 3 minutes, but
yeah. I agree with you. I like Phillip Rivers. I think Phillip Rivers is easily the second best quarterback in that division. That's not saying much, but yeah, Rivers had a great season last year. Took a Chargers team that not a lot of people expected to do too much to the second round of the playoffs last season. I mean, they have a good offense in San Diego. They have a good group of receivers. Obviously, they still have Gates. They have the kid Keenan Allen. They still have Malcolm Floyd. They have a decent group of running backs and Ryan Matthews and Danny Woodhead, who are versatile guys who can do plenty. I think this is a Chargers team that could surprise some people this season. I really like the San Diego Chargers this year.
maybe 9-7.
What's that?
Maybe 9-7.
You think 9-7? I think the Chiefs are going to be closer to 9-7.
Maybe 9-7 for
Really?
the Chargers. And I don't want to take anything away from them. I just think maybe 9-7.
Okay.
All right. I want to go to the AFC South now, only
Yes,
because
sir.
the Raiders are still the Raiders. So
Yeah, the Raiders don't warrant much talk. The only intrigue from them will come when their new young quarterback Derek Carr gets to start late in the year. That'd be the only intrigue that they provide for people this season, unfortunately.
that's about it. And of course, maybe Justin Tuck will get 5 sacks this year tops.
That will be interesting for Giant fans. It's going to be weird watching him in a different uniform, but I think that he's going to be a contributor for that team. He'll be a leader just like he was for the Giants.
Yeah, but tops 5 sacks.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't see it in that defense.
All right.
I just don't see much in that defense.
Well, we'll see. Speaking of defense, we're going to move to the division with the best defensive player maybe in pro football, the AFC South. Among the players in the AFC South is J.J. Watt on the lowly Houston Texans, Mike.
This is a team that I simply cannot figure out.
Few people can.
I really thought 2 years ago this team was ready for the Super Bowl. And I think one of the most amazing things, and we've seen it happen before in a lot of different sports.
Yeah.
Probably in baseball, the one that really shocked me was Steve Carlton, the great left-hander, who was dominant, and then all of a sudden, he couldn't do it anymore. Just like that. Matt Schaub was the quarterback of the Texans, went to 2 Pro Bowls, had dynamite season, and then all of a sudden, he couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And that was a big reason why the Texans spiraled out of control, and nobody knew, oh my God, our franchise quarterback, 2-time Pro Bowler, now he can't even throw a pass.
That's a big reason why Ryan Fitzpatrick was projected to be their starting quarterback this season. Your franchise is in a pretty sad state of affairs when you sign Ryan Fitzpatrick to be your starter. And they don't,
But you had to sign Ryan Fitzpatrick. That was the worst part.
I know. Yeah. And their backup, they have Case Keenum and Tom Savage, the young rookie who they brought in. Neither one of those guys are long-term solutions. I know people got excited about Case Keenum when he started last season, but he ended up having a pretty poor season. And you look at that team, they have some good players. They obviously still have J.J. Watt. They have Andre Johnson. They still have Arian Foster, who can still be a productive player. And they have some decent players. But other than that, I mean, when you can't get your quarterback situation figured out, your team franchise isn't going anywhere. And another team that can illustrate that perfectly is the Indianapolis Colts, a team who has had their quarterback situation figured out for probably the last 20 years. They get Peyton Manning. They stumble into Andrew Luck. I think stumble is an appropriate word considering the way they found themselves at that pick. But this team, it's interesting for the Colts. This is a team that doesn't really have anyone to challenge them at the top of that division.
No, I see the Colts running away with this division, and it doesn't. I don't want to take anything away from the Titans. I just don't think the Titans are there yet. I like Jake Locker. I like him.
Really?
I don't love Jake Locker. I like him.
Mm-hmm. You don't love
quarterback for the Titans.
You love your wife. You like Jake Locker.
I like Jake,
but
I mean, there are some quarterbacks who I love when it comes to playing that position.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Locker, I like, and that's why I think you're talking Titans 8-8, maybe Texans 7-9, and the Colts run away with the
Really,
division.
you think the Texans have enough to get to 7-9?
Yes, I mean I think they do have enough for that.
Okay.
But getting back to where they were the perennial.
Oh yeah,
division
well
champs,
of course not. Yeah.
the Colts run away with this division.
Now, what do you think about the Jaguars this season? Because I think the Jaguars are intriguing for the first time in a long time. They had a period of last season where they looked like a competitive football team. They bring in Blake Bortles, third overall pick in the draft, enough said, who I think will be starting for them pretty early in the season. I think the Jaguars have an opportunity to win 5 or 6 games this season, which would be the first time you can say that about them.
I think 7-9 for the Jaguars.
Really? You
this
think
year.
they're that good?
When you get a bunch of young, hungry kids together, and I know the youngest guy's probably 22 or 23 on that team, but when you get a bunch of young, hungry guys, you have very few players who have a lot of NFL experience, who have winning NFL experience. All right, now we're hungry. All right, we want to win.
Yeah.
We don't want to see some old guy who's getting a big salary just to finish out his career. They don't have that at the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of young, hungry kids, and I like Blake Bortles. I think he's going to come in very early in the season, if not start the season, like you say. Hey, Chad, we love you, but.
Yeah.
And, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. There was something, I was watching one of their preseason games, and there just seems to be a new attitude in Jacksonville. And I think a big reason why is they're now going to start seeing a lot of fan support based on the fact that Jacksonville was close to leaving.
Yeah.
They were close to leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, now that they're staying, now that they're going to stay for a long time,
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of confidence in these players. Yeah, and I see 7 wins out of this team.
Yeah, it makes sense, the point you make, because you don't want to get invested in a team that's going to leave in 2 or 3 years, not to mention the fact that they were a terrible team during the period of time when they were talking about leaving. My only concern with them, I think they have a shot to have a decent defense, is their offense. I don't like any of their options at running back. Denard Robinson led them in rushing this preseason. I don't think Toby Gerhart or Storm Johnson, the young rookie, are solutions. And their receiving core is such a mess with Ace Sanders suspended and Justin Blackman, who knows if he's ever going to play again. They have Cecil Shorts. They have Marquise Lee, who they hope can surprise some people. Their offense, if they can, and their offensive line is a little bit of a mess too. But if they can find a few surprises on offense, I think they could definitely eke out 6 or 7 wins.
I think
not 7 wins, 5 or 6 wins.
What's been very funny is actually, like you mentioned, watching them try to have Toby Gerhart carry the offense.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not working.
No, it's not.
At least not in the preseason.
Well, I see that Gerhart just isn't. You think about the number of hits he took at Stanford, because he was a real pounded out running back. He wasn't a guy who made a lot of 60-yard runs. He was getting hit on every play.
Right.
And he didn't play a lot in Minnesota. And I guarantee, granted, they have Adrian Peterson, but Gerhart never really made his presence known on that team. And now you bring him over to Jacksonville, where his offensive line isn't great, and the rest of the guys he's going to have around him aren't going to provide him with a lot of support. I think that Gerhart's just not going to be the solution. And at this point in time, wouldn't you rather go with a young guy and see what you've got, guy who might have some potential, rather than a guy in Gerhart who kind of is what he is at this point in his career?
And you know what? That's a good way to put it. He is what he is.
Right.
And that's all.
That's right.
No offense, Toby Gerhart, but we just don't see you, becoming the next Adrian Peterson, that's for sure.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. You know what? It's funny. These are 2 divisions, the AFC West and the AFC South, where it looks like one team and then there are the rest.
Top heavy, right?
I say the same thing about the AFC North. I see the Bengals and then I see the rest. And that includes the Baltimore Ravens.
Really?
I see the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Browns all going 8-8. But I see
Wait a second, you see the Browns winning 8 games.
I'm sorry. I see the Ravens and the Steelers going 8-8.
Because that would be a story.
I would see the Browns going 5-11.
Okay.
But I certainly see the Bengals running away with that division. I really think that they have got a real good balance right now. I like their defense. I like their A.J. Dalton as their quarterback.
Andy Dalton,
I'm sorry. I like Andy Dalton as their quarterback. He seems to now have complete control of that offense.
See, I think this division is going to be a lot more competitive than people think. Now, I don't think the Steelers have much left in the tank. I think they're a team that's kind of on a downward trend. But I really think the Baltimore Ravens are going to have a bounce-back season. I think Joe Flacco, who had a bad season last year, I think he's going to come back and be a really good player. Plus, I really like their defense when you consider the fact that they have Elvis Dumervil and Terrell Suggs on that defense. They have a lot of concerns, but they improved that receiving core. Flacco's going to have a lot more weapons this season than he had last year. I think the Ravens are going to challenge the Bengals for that division title, because that division is so tough. Those teams, that's going to become like the new black and blue division. the AFC North. It's been that way for a few years.
No? That I'm not seeing it. Only because I don't see the Steelers, especially. I don't see them as strong as they have been in the past. And no, I don't see the Ravens as strong as they have been, or like they were 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl.
I agree with that. Yeah, I do think that see, this is the thing though. You always see from the next year how many division winners repeat from the next year, especially the last few years. You've seen 4 or 5 or 6 new division winners each season,
except for the AFC East.
You think? Yeah, that's true.
It's
I know.
Patriots since you were born. Actually, I think.
That's
the way it seems, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, of course. Because Tom Brady's always been at the head of that division. Although they had that one year in 2008 where Brady got hurt. That's kind of the one outlier among their.
And the funny thing is, they still went
11-5. Yeah,
isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that is crazy with Matt Castle. I mean, I like the Bengals. I don't love the Bengals.
See, you're in the same boat as me.
Mm-hmm.
You like them, but you don't love them.
I don't think this is a team that you're going to see win a playoff game. And this is a Ravens team that's so used to winning. I think that if Flacco goes back to the caliber of player that he was prior to last season, I think the Ravens have a real shot to win this division.
Okay. All right.
The Bengals have a few concerns. Now, although there's one team we have to talk about that we haven't talked about yet in this division is the Cleveland Browns.
No, we don't have
Brian
to talk
Hoyer. Really, Brian Hoyer was named the starter for this team. Johnny Manziel obviously will start the season as the backup. I think this Browns team has some good players.
They've got a couple of good players, but as a team, they're not going to go anywhere. They have too many holes. Sure, they've got Gordon. Sure, they have Phillips.
Well, they might not even have Gordon. That's the thing.
I mean, it's just there are too many holes, and plus all the distraction with Johnny Football. He scores a touchdown in the preseason, starts coming up with his little money sign. No. It's not going to run in the NFL. And you're not going to embarrass a defensive. Let's say you've got a defensive end what's his name for Chicago, who just went to Chicago after being all those years in Minnesota.
Jared Allen?
Yeah, you take a guy like Jared Allen. I don't know if the Browns play the Vikings this year, but let's say someone similar to that.
Vontez Perfect.
If you go ahead and you throw, all right, there's a good example. You throw a touchdown pass against a veteran like Jared Allen, and you do that sign, I guarantee the next time the defense comes out, he's going to lay you out, and he's going to make you know you are now in the NFL and you don't disrespect veteran NFL players like that.
Yeah, well, he'll have a welcome to the NFL moment. They all do.
Oh, and it's not going to be pretty.
How long do you think it'll be till Manziel starts for the Browns?
4th game.
Really? You think he'll be in that quickly?
4th game.
Wow.
Because I expect him to be 0-3 at that point.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
I think this is wow.
I don't see strength in this Browns team.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we shall see, sir. I think this Browns team could win a few games. But moving on, sir.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready to move on. Here's the reason why. Okay? There's one team who I think is going to be a real surprise this year.
The Buffalo Bills.
No.
Okay.
The Miami Dolphins.
You think the Dolphins? Okay.
I really, really like it. And I think you and I talked about this once before. Okay? Is I like the way, and I know it's preseason, but I like the way Ryan Tannehill looks like he has taken complete control of that Miami offense. He looks very comfortable now going into his 3rd year as if this is my team.
Yeah.
And they really built well around him. They got rid of that whole crap that happened with the bullying and everything else.
Yeah.
And I think the Dolphins, with the defense they now have in place, I think they're ready not to take over, but to challenge the Patriots for that division.
Really? You like the cut of their jib?
I just like I like what I'm seeing right now. And I know it's only preseason, but I like what I'm seeing from the Miami Dolphins.
See, this is my problem with the Dolphins. I don't like their running game that much. They have Lamar Miller and Daniel Thomas and Noshawn Moreno, 3 guys who throughout their careers have been fairly unreliable. I think you could say that they've been unreliable players. And I don't think Tannehill is the type of guy who you can say, all right, Ryan, go win the game. We don't have a running game. Go win it.
See,
we need you to win the game.
That's where I think he is now.
Really?
I think he is that guy who you say, okay, Ryan, there's 2.5 minutes left on the clock. We're on the 15-yard line. We need a field goal or a touchdown. He gets it for them.
Really?
I think he is now in that position. I just have a lot of confidence. I like this Dolphin team.
Really? See, I know they almost made the playoffs last year. They blew their last couple games they arguably should have won. So I think it's a fair assessment. I just don't see this Dolphins, and also on their
And
defense.
remember, that was with a lot of those problems hanging over their heads.
I know that's true.
Yeah.
But if you remember, a week or two, while that was going on, they were still winning football games. It was after that, at the end of the season, when those distractions should have been behind them, that they couldn't win football games. And also, I look at their defense, their linebacking core. They still have Cameron Wake. You can't not love Cameron Wake if you're a football
he's a
fan.
terrific player.
But their linebacking core really concerns me, and their secondary. They have Brent Grimes. Other than that, they don't have a very good group of corners. I mean, they just signed Cortland Finnegan, who was a total flop in St. Louis. And their linebacking core, they have Daniel Ellerby and Koemisi and Philip Wheeler. They don't have any depth behind those guys. And linebacker is a position we need depth. I just think this team has a lot of holes. I'm not sure how good. I think this division is, again, another top-heavy division. I don't see any team in the AFC East other than New England over 500.
No. I see the Dolphins 10-6 and a wild card team.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Speaking of Ryan Tannehill, let's just take a moment and appreciate his wife.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Ryan Tannehill, good job, buddy.
Yeah. But yeah, see this. Yeah.
Yes, we are a radio program, but
That's
of
right.
course Mark has his tablet here.
Feel free to Google Lauren Tannehill on Google. Google it on Google. It's tough to Google things on other websites.
Or go to HBO and go back to 2 years ago when they did
Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That was fun. So how good do you think the Patriots are going to be this season? Because I think last year they were more a product of their division. It was a reason why they won that division. I don't think the Patriots are that good. I just don't think there's anyone else in that division who's any better. I mean, they just traded Logan Mankins, which I guess speaks to what Bill Belichick thinks of the Patriots' depth. They still have good players, but more and more holes are springing up on that team, especially when you look at the secondary. I know they just signed Darrelle Revis, but he's one man, and the rest of their corners, Brandon Browner, Kyle Arrington, Alfonso Denard, and they just brought back Patrick Chung, which tells you what it's kind of state their secondary's in.
Well, now the secondary is better than it last year. Last year they got to the AFC Championship game with a bad secondary.
They had to keep Talib last year, and they had
a lot of holes in that secondary last year.
I don't know. They haven't changed it that much though.
But they got a little bit better with Revis.
No, but they lost Akeem Talib and brought in Revis. That's close to a wash.
I think Revis is going to be a little bit better.
All right.
Okay. I do think that they are still the cream of the crop in the AFC.
Well, see, here's the other thing, though. You look at their running back situation. They've got Stephen Ridley, who can't stop fumbling. Shane Vereen, who's more of a receiving back, who's never been a workhorse guy who's held a full load as a runner. He's more of a receiver out of the backfield. And Brandon Bolden, who's kind of eh. And then you look at their receivers. They still have Amendola, but he's super injury prone.
Oh, yeah.
And they
absolutely.
have Julian Edelman. But other than that, they have Aaron Dobson and Ken Tompkins, and they added Brandon LaFell, 3 players who aren't dependable. Now, Brady's made it work with mediocre receivers before. Yes, but how long is it going to be till Gronk gets hurt again?
Well, what if he stays healthy?
It's a much bigger what if to say what if he stays healthy and what if he gets hurt.
It is what if, but we're still talking about Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and the New England Patriots.
I don't know.
And every year they still come out, they win their division, they win 11, 12 games, and they get to the AFC Championship game.
See, the only reason I can agree with you is because they don't have anyone else good in their division. For instance, the Jets, say what you want about the Jets, they won 8 games last year, but this is not a team that I think is an 8-8 caliber football team.
Well, it was funny, we were talking about some quarterbacks, like I like Andy Dalton, I like Ryan Tannehill.
Do you like Geno Smith?
I don't like Geno Smith.
You don't like Geno Smith?
Not yet. Do I think Geno has a chance? Of course I do. It's only his second year.
Yeah.
But I don't like him yet. I think that has to come soon.
See, this team just has.
Take a look at that. I just got this over my phone. This is Wednesday, August 27th, and Josh Gordon of the Browns has been suspended for a year.
What a shocker!
By the NFL.
That's just another detriment to that team. They don't have it. Now who's going to catch passes for that team now?
3-13.
Really, you think they're going to be worse than they were last year?
You take out one of your only All-Pros.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they took out Phillips, I'd say the same thing. Because who's gonna block for any of these quarterbacks?
Thomas, you mean Joe Thomas?
I'm sorry, Thomas. Thomas, not Phillips.
Do you think they're going to fire their head coach again?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
It's one of those teams where you just keep the rotation of the head coach.
The thing about that is, and we were talking about this briefly, we got to get back to the East, but I do want to talk about this. Who's going to want to take that Browns job in the future? Because these coaches, they don't last. They're just in and out. They're gone. What young assistant is going to want to take this job where you really don't have a chance to even establish yourself as a member of the organization before you're gone?
Anyone will. Any assistant coach who has an opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL will grab it, or a college coach. There is still something about being a head coach in the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a bunch of I think they're lined up outside the door. It's just they're going to go into a situation that's
Okay.
not going to be good. And then
Right.
what do? They end up becoming an assistant coach again somewhere else after they go 4-12 or 3-13. They have the Cleveland plain dealer looking for them, to hang them.
Or Cleveland, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing.
All right. Well, back to the Jets, though. I mean, how do you see this team progressing further or regressing this season? Because I think this is a team that's going to win 6 games.
I say the same. I say they 8-8 again.
Really?
That's what I see from this team.
I think
Only, and you know why?
Mm-hmm.
Because something we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, what's
Their
that?
defensive line's the best in football.
Yes, but it's only 3 guys.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that they have a great enough defense that they're going to stop the run. They're going to be able to pressure quarterbacks at times. They've got a decent defensive backfield. The Jets still do.
See, I don't think so. I don't think they're going to be able to put pressure on. Who's going to pressure quarterbacks for them?
Oh, I think that, Calvin Pace.
Calvin Pace is not a pass rusher.
No, but as guys are coming up the middle, the Jets have the kind, when you have a pass rush like the Jets have, a lot of it is up the middle. And when you now have to start bringing extra guys in to cover the middle, you're talking a wingback or a tight end having to come into the middle to stop these defensive tackles. Somebody's going to come in from the outside.
See, I don't know. My problem is I don't think they have the corners in order to be able to blitz and keep those receivers covered, especially with Milliner now gone for the first few weeks. And now Patterson with this whole suspension thing. You look at their safeties. They have Calvin Pryor, but the rest of their guys, Antonio Allen, Deron Landry, are not great players. Dexter McDougal, the cornerback, he's gone for the season. They just don't have a lot of players. I don't think they can cover these receivers enough to where the blitz is going to be effective. I mean, you saw them in the first preseason game against the Colts, bringing blitzes that they couldn't get to Andrew Luck, and their cornerbacks were getting beat on an island.
You are just anti-Jet.
Sure.
And this
Okay.
is and I'm not going to tell anybody here where you live, but let's just say
Okay.
the Jets live in your backyard.
They do.
They live in your backyard. This is your hometown
We've
team.
been trying to get them out of there, but they won't leave.
I mean,
I feel like that's trespassing.
doesn't Mangold get coffee at the same place you get coffee every morning?
I don't drink coffee.
If you were to drink coffee,
If I drank coffee,
wouldn't
I'm
Mangold-
sure we'd get it at the same place. Yes. I think that okay. I'll go along with that. But what do you think about the Decker pickup? Because I don't think Decker's a number 1 for this team. And I'm not sure how good of a season he's going to have.
He's not a number 1, but I think what he's going to do is he's going to give a go-to receiver for Geno. Okay, and we're talking 3rd and 7.
Okay.
Decker's going to do the 8 and in. Okay, he's going to do the slant. He's going to do something that's going to get that first down for him, and that's what he's going to use him for. And this way, you use a guy like Decker who can catch the ball underneath in the seam routes, gives Geno confidence.
Here's my first bold prediction of this NFL preview. This is Rex Ryan's last season as head coach of the Jets.
Yeah, I think this might be it.
He's going to get fired after this season. Now, quickly, what do you think of the Bills? I think the Bills are back at the bottom. I think E.J. Manuel is not the solution at quarterback.
No.
And, I mean, this team has some decent players. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the rest of the division.
But I don't blame Manuel. Even though I agree with you that he might not be the answer, I don't think a lot of it's his fault. I just think the Bills, just like the Browns, I mean, they're just, whether it's draft picks that don't work out, whether it's trades that just, it's just not working.
Mm-hmm.
And here was the worst part is I think they invested too many years in Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's a fair assessment. I'm excited to see Sammy Watkins play.
Oh, absolutely. He's an exciting player.
I'm not sure how much he's going to get the ball.
Exactly. How's he going to get the ball when Manuel's getting sacked?
That's right. All right. That is our AFC preview. So who are your division winners in the AFC, Mike?
Okay, division winners are definitely going to be the Broncos,
Yeah.
the Colts, the Bengals, and the Patriots.
All right. I'm going Broncos. I think the Ravens win it in the North. It's hard to see anyone but the Colts coming out of the South and the Patriots in the East. I hate doing this because it's just recycling all the division winners from last season except for the Bengals. But I find it hard to see anyone else. There are just so many bad teams in the AFC, it seems like. The NFC, I think, is a far superior conference.
Okay, your 2 wildcard teams.
2 wildcard teams. I think the Chargers take 1 wild card. And for the second wild card, Bengals.
Okay. Because I choose the Bengals to win their division, my 2 wildcard teams are going to be the Chargers. And, of course, who I spoke about.
The Dolphins.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think the Miami Dolphins are breaking through this year. Not a championship, but I think getting to the playoffs,
getting to the playoffs is a
and giving
start.
somebody a scare in the playoffs. That's what the Dolphins will do this year.
Okay, well, that's a start, I think.
Okay. Now that we're going to the NFC,
Yes, sir.
I want to start off with the division where my other surprise team is.
Okay.
Okay? And I want to talk about the NFC West.
Yes, sir.
And the team that I really think is going to be the big surprise in the NFC,
The St. Louis Rams.
the Arizona Cardinals.
I really like the Cardinals this season, too.
St. Louis Rams, 4-12.
No.
Yes.
This team wins 7 games.
Oh, come on. With that quarterback?
Yes.
No way.
Yes, absolutely.
You say 7
This team
games?
wins 7 games.
In that division with that quarterback. What is it, Sean Hill?
Yeah.
No way.
Yes, absolutely. 41 touchdowns, 24 interceptions in his career.
No way.
500 as a starter in his career. Sean Hill wins 7 games for that team. I guarantee you that. This team has too many other... So you think Sam Bradford is that much better than Sean Hill?
I think there was enough confidence in Sam Bradford. I mean, come on. You put Sam Bradford next to Sean Hill's sitting on the bench or he's holding a clipboard.
Well, that's because they're paying Sam Bradford all this money and because he was their first overall pick. Oof. If they were, this should have been an open quarterback competition because these quarterbacks, Bradford and Hill, are equal in ability.
You really think so, huh?
Yes, this team wins 7 games. I like their defense. I like Greg Williams. They have maybe the best. Defense. They have the best set of defensive ends in football in Long and Robert Quinn. This team has a really good chance.
Yeah, but they have no
to win
push
7
up
games.
the middle.
They have some decent players. They just drafted Aaron Donald. They brought in Alex Carrington.
Whenever I've watched them, especially on the pass rush, Long and Quick are fine.
Quinn,
but there's nobody up the middle.
Well, that's why they drafted Aaron Donald, though.
We'll see.
Aaron Donald's Defensive Rookie of the Year this year.
I think that you are very, very overly confident with your St. Louis Rams.
I thought you were going to say very, very right.
No, very overconfident.
I like this team. This team wins 7 football games. You remember, they almost beat the Seahawks in St. Louis last season. This is a good team.
Yeah, but who beat the Seahawks in St. Louis? I mean, who beat the Seahawks in Seattle?
I know, but we're not. That's not a fair comparison. Arizona's a much better team than St. Louis. I don't think anyone would argue that. I agree. Now, do you think Arizona's a better? Where do you think Arizona lands in that division? You think they're better than San Francisco or Seattle?
Better than San Francisco, not better than Seattle.
You think they're better than San Francisco?
Right. At this point, yes.
Okay.
Now, again, you can't go by the preseason.
Of course.
But I do not look. I tell you what.
Yeah.
You read any San Francisco newspaper, you talk to the people who or sports people out in San Francisco, they don't like the way Colin Kaepernick looks right now.
See, I'm a huge Colin Kaepernick fan.
He does not look good right now.
Again, now I agree with you. The preseason doesn't matter, but when you look as bad as the 49ers have looked this preseason, it does make you start to worry. Who's the only quarterback who has a touchdown pass for the Niners this preseason? Do you know who it is? It's Blaine Gabbert. All right, that's a bad sign.
Oh, wow, the former Jaguar.
Yes, that's right. I mean, but I don't think there's any way that the 49ers aren't a better team than Arizona. I think this is one of the best teams in the NFL when you think about Patrick Willis and Aldon Smith on defense. They still have Justin Smith. They still have a great group of offensive players. They have a really good offensive line. I like the group of receivers. And like I said, I love Colin Kaepernick.
I just see the division finally. Now, I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
You're already looking for 7 wins for the Rams without Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
Okay. We've already agreed, both of us, that Arizona is a better team than they were last year. And they won 10 games last year.
Yes.
So somebody has got to fold, and that's who I think is going to fold is Sam, because I don't see Seattle folding anytime soon.
No, no one does.
But I do see San Francisco starting to take a step backwards. They've been there for the last 3 years, right at the cusp, and now I think they take a step backwards.
Well, it's true in the point that you're making that every one of these teams that has a long stretch of being good has a down year where something goes wrong and they finish 6-10. Now, I don't think this is that year for the Niners. I still think they're a better team than the Cardinals. I still think they'll finish better than the Cardinals will this season. I mean,
see, now that's a tough thing because now you're talking about a division winner and possibly 2 wild card candidates coming out of that one division.
Yep. You're exactly right. I am talking about that.
I see Seattle. I see Arizona. I don't see San Fran this year.
Seattle's 14-2 this season, 13-3. I mean, there's no one can challenge their team. I think there's a very good chance they could repeat.
I'm going to say 12-4, and
Seattle,
3 of their losses come from the division.
I think that 3 of them. So you think someone's going to beat them at home?
Yes.
Wait, do you don't think they're going to get swept in a season? You think they're going to get swept by someone in a season series? You think the Cardinals are that good this season?
I think either the Cardinals or the 49ers know enough about Seattle that one of those teams will sweep them. Again, 12-4, but I think 3 of their losses come from inside the division.
This team is 14-2.
And you never know. A team, St. Louis Rams at home against Seattle, you never know.
Okay, I think that's fair. Yeah, they almost beat Seattle
remember,
at home last season.
They have been
with
battling
Kellen
these
Clemens.
best teams, like the Rams or the Cardinals.
Yeah,
have been battling with the best for the last 3 years. The 2 best teams in football, in my opinion.
So you're not putting that much stock in the loss of Darnell Dockett for the Cardinals because I'm not.
I did. Yes, I still do. I still think that's a huge loss, but I think there's enough on the Cardinals defense to recover.
I think that's fair. So you think Seattle, Arizona, San Francisco, St. Louis in that division?
Yes.
Okay. And all right. Next up, The NFC South, one of the most intriguing divisions last year. We saw the Carolina Panthers come out of nowhere in the NFC South, win 12 games, and get a bye in the divisional in the playoffs. Do you think they're going to repeat?
No, I see this as a runaway division again. I see the Saints running away. I don't think Carolina is as good as they were last year. I don't see them surprising or sneaking up on people the way they did last year. And I'm looking at the other two. Actually, the team that I think is going to do much better is the Falcons.
You think it's the Falcons?
I say Falcons 9-7, possibly a wild card team.
Really? We disagree, and we're going to disagree on that.
I'll tell you the reason why. I love watching their receiving core. And, of course, it does help having them be the team on Hard Knocks. But I'm talking about not only Julio Jones and Roddy White. I love Douglas. And I think Douglas, when you have three receivers.
Douglas is a solid player,
yes. And you have three receivers of that caliber. Now, here's the thing, is Julio Jones may not be what he's been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But when he goes out, you're watching. You're paying attention. So there's Julio Jones. There's Roddy White.
Yes.
All of a sudden, Douglas catches the ball underneath for a first down.
See, I think the Falcons aren't going to be much different than they were last season. I see them as
they were horrible last year.
They're going to be a 6 or a 7 win team. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to finish second in this division.
No way.
I think the Buccaneers are a much better team.
No way.
They have Lovie Smith. They brought in Mike Evans. Josh McCown is going to solidify that team at quarterback. The Buccaneers win 9 games. The Buccaneers win 9 games this season.
Josh McCown is going to solidify that team?
Yep. They win 9 games this season.
Okay, Mark, my question, what were you smoking before you came in today?
What's that?
What were you smoking?
I cannot confirm nor deny that I was smoking something before I came in here today.
This is one where I definitely will disagree with you. I see the Saints running away.
You have the right to be wrong. That's fine.
The right to be wrong. That's in the Constitution, the right to be wrong.
It should be.
No, actually it is. That's what free speech is all about. Mm-hmm. The First Amendment is the right to be wrong.
I agree with you. I think the Saints win this division. Yeah. I think the Saints are back to being a Super Bowl contender. I don't think there's any way that the Falcons get back to what they were a couple seasons ago.
I didn't say back to where they were when they were 12-4, but I do see them coming back to 9-7 because right now you have a 3 receiver core that matches up with anybody. Plus, you've got a Matthews on the offensive line.
Yes, but they've had that for the past few years. Who runs the ball for them?
No. They have a Matthews this year.
Who runs the ball for the Falcons this year? They haven't had a running game in 2 or 3 seasons. Steven Jackson always gets hurt.
Yeah,
Jaquiz Rogers is not an NFL running back. Devontae Freeman's a rookie. And their secondary and their linebacking core is a mess.
Let's see what happens with Steven Jackson.
Okay,
let's see what happens.
Over under week 5 for an injury. I'm going to go under.
I'm going to say he sits out week 7 and only week 7.
Okay.
And that's it.
This Panthers team, I think Ron Rivera is back on the hot seat after this season. This team is going to regress big time. I think they were back to maybe a 7-win team. Them and the Falcons will be fighting over the division cellar.
I totally agree with you on that one.
All right. Another division super intriguing is the NFC North. When you look at the NFC, every team is intriguing in this division. The Detroit Lions are always, can they get out of their own way kind of a team. The Packers and the Bears, we saw that epic battle for the division last season. One of the most exciting games I think anyone watched last year was the final game of the season in Chicago where Rodgers took the touchdown pass to Cobb, essentially to win the division. And now the Minnesota Vikings have Teddy Bridgewater, who for some reason is not starting. Do you have any idea why Teddy Bridgewater is not starting for that team? Because I think this is absurd.
Matt Castle.
Okay. Again, do you have any reason why he's not starting?
Matt Castle. Now, am I saying Matt Castle is better than Teddy Bridgewater? No. What I'm saying is that we've seen this time and time again.
And my point is, though, what are you getting out of Matt Castle? What's the point of starting Matt Castle?
A veteran who has started in this league before and has won in this league. Now, again, I'm giving you the coach's perspective. Well, we just talked about him earlier. He took over that Patriots team and they went 11-5 because, remember, Brady got hurt in the first game of that year.
I know that, but Chad Pennington won in this league, too. I don't think the Vikings are going to sign Chad Pennington. Matt Castle is a shell of himself. He's like a corpse that you put behind center. Sorry about that. I think Teddy Bridgewater has had a fantastic preseason. Throw him in there. What do you have to lose? And the thing I talked about with our former co-host, whose name escapes me right now, is that...
Graham?
Yeah. Is that you throw Bridgewater in there, he's got Adrian Peterson, so you're not putting him in a situation where he has to go win games for you. You're going to be able to you're going to be able to have him hand the ball off to Adrian Peterson 30 times. He's going to kind of ease him into the starting role. He can learn while he's playing and gain experience without having to throw the ball 50 or 60 times a game. And by starting Castle, it's not like we can start Castle, now we can throw the ball all over the field. No. If we started Bridgewater, we couldn't. These starters are in the same place, in my opinion.
I totally agree with you. I'm one of those people, remember, we've talked about this. I'm one of those people that I don't care if he's a rookie or not. if he's the best person at that position, you start him.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater should start for the Vikings. Why he's not, I don't know. And I think that holds that team back.
And plus, they have a really good offensive line in Minnesota, so it's not like you're putting him back there to get his head knocked in every single time he drops back to pass. They're going to be able to protect him. He has some decent weapons in Greg Jennings and Patterson. He has Kyle Rudolph. So he has some decent weapons. I think that this is a team that needs to start moving on from what they were last season. And by starting Matt Castle, they're not doing that.
So because they're going to start Matt Castle, they go 8-8.
There's no way this team wins 8 games.
I do see
this is a 4-win.
Most of their wins though are going to come from out of the division.
This is a 4 or 5 win team.
No, I see Matt Castle winning 2, maybe 3, and then Bridgewater comes in late.
If
in the
Matt
season.
Castle wins 1 game, it's a victory for the Vikings. All right. Now the Packers and the Bears are going to battle for the top of this division. We saw the Packers win it last season. They stole one from the Bears in the form of Julius Peppers. Although Peppers now is trying to transition to be a linebacker for the Packers, which is something A, he's never done before, and B, he's old, which makes it too difficult, which is going to make it all that much more difficult. You think the Packers are going to repeat this season, Mike?
Absolutely.
Really?
I don't like
unequivocally
the Bears. And that doesn't mean that I'm not a Bears fan. What I'm saying is I don't – there are certain quarterbacks that no matter how many flashes they've had, I just don't think will take you to the promised land.
Like a
Jay Cutler will not take the Bears to the promised land.
All right.
I just have that feeling. I've seen it before. There's another quarterback I feel very strongly about like that also, is that Jay Cutler I just don't think is the one that the Bears should rely on to get them back to the Super Bowl.
See, I think the Bears win the division this season.
Oh, no way.
The Bears are a better team than the Packers.
No way.
Cutler, I've always liked Jay Cutler. And they still have Matt Forte. I mean, their receiving core, they have Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey, who are unstoppable. And you combine with that Martellus Bennett, who's a solid player.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Do me a favor. Tell me, who's the Packers quarterback?
Oh, stop it.
Who is the Packers quarterback?
Stanzi? Or no, Matt Flynn? Scott Tolzien, right?
No. Who is the Packers quarterback?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
That's one position, though,
The
Mike.
Packers win the Super Bowl.
No, they don't.
I'm not the Super Bowl. I mean, the Packers win the division.
I was going to say.
I don't want to go Super Bowl.
You're jumping way ahead.
No, I definitely think the Packers take this division again.
I disagree. The Bears, I like the Bears this season. They have a good secondary. I like their linebacking core. And I think Cutler has a great season this year. I think they're driven by what happened to them last season. I think they're going to go 10-6 this year. The Packers maybe 9-7. The Bears win this division, Mike.
Wow. We're going to have to replay this, and I hope everybody replays this.
Really, you really want to have my words thrown in your face when you're proven wrong?
Week 15, I want this replayed again.
Okay.
And when your Bears,
I will be more than willing to do so.
When they are just screaming to sit Jay Cutler. Because he's not throwing the ball correctly.
Stop it.
Watch
all of a sudden, he's had 3 or 4 great years in a row. All of a sudden, he's going to fall on his face. Stop it. Jay Cutler is a Pro Bowler this season.
Watch.
Okay. Now, last but not least, our last division, probably our favorite division.
Of course.
Because we both have teams in this division.
It should be
the NFC East.
You do not live in Texas. You do not live anywhere near Texas. This should be a team that we both have the same team in this
That's
division.
why they're America's team, Mike. Because you don't got to be from Texas to root for them, baby. That's what makes them great.
All right. Who do you see in this division?
Eagles run away with this division, Mike. There's no team in Eagles, again, the only team in this division that finishes above 500.
I have to tell you something. I was not confident in the Eagles taking this division this year. I just thought that their quarterback was a fluke. Okay. I'm watching one of the preseason games. Now, again, it's preseason, but Kevin threw an out pass.
Who's Kevin?
Oh, I'm sorry, the quarterback.
Nick Foles?
Nick Foles. I'm thinking Kevin Cobb. Jesus. That's a couple of years ago. Okay, so Nick Foles throws an out pass. It was a screen pass.
Yeah.
What I saw were 2 Philadelphia Eagle offensive linemen who not only got out there in front of the running back for the pass, for the screen pass, but were running with blazing speed, and both made key blocks on a major gain on that. And that told me something. There are not a lot of offensive linemen in the NFL who are as big and strong and as fast as what I saw the Eagles doing.
Well, yeah.
And that's not counting all the other great weapons that they do have. You know what? I may have to go with the Eagles also.
Well, see, the only concern for them is I don't like their receiving core. Cooper and Macklin are really not top receivers. If you have Riley Cooper as your number 1 receiver, you're in trouble.
But they may be enough.
I don't see. I mean, well, first of all, they have LaShawn McCoy, who I think is maybe the best back in the NFL now. But I have a theory. I have a couple theories on the Eagles. I want to hear your opinion on this. Two theories. One is that last season was the first season Chip Kelly's offense, such a dynamic, complex offense, that the Eagles weren't running it at full speed because they were learning it. The players were still figuring it out, so they weren't able to run everything they wanted to run.
Not until Oakland.
This season, now that they're more in tune, these guys have spent a full offseason with Chip Kelly's offense. They'll be able to run this offense more at the level that they ran it at Oregon because they've had a full season to get used to everything. The second theory is that now that NFL teams have a full season of playing against Chip Kelly, they now have Chip Kelly's offense on tape. They're going to be able to study. They've studied it for an entire offseason, and they're going to be able to come out with things. They're going to be able to stop this offense and slow it down because now they've had a full season to review the tapes and figure out the strengths and weaknesses. So, which of those theories do you think is going to be more true? The first one.
Your first one, and I'll tell you why. What I talked about. What I talked about with these offensive linemen, big, strong, fast. It doesn't matter if your defense knows the Oregon offense that Chip Kelly's going to bring in.
Yeah.
Oh, we've watched film on it now. We saw what they did last year. We got a good idea. If you don't have the players with the ability to stop that offense, they're not going to.
Okay.
And just that one play, watching those linemen as fast and as big and as strong as they are, getting out in front of LaShawn McCoy on that screen pass, I don't see anybody stopping them, at least in the division. I don't think they're the best team in the NFC, but I certainly think that you're looking at a 12-4 team.
All right, now the Redskins this season, they have RG3 back, maybe fully healthy. Do you see them more like they were last year or the year before when they won the division?
Here's what's going to happen with the Redskins. By week 7, they're 2-5.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins takes over quarterback.
No, you're insane.
Yep.
You're nuts.
I'm not the only one who's talking about it already.
Will only start a game if RG3 gets hurt, which is not out of the question. There's
I'm
no
not the
way
only
they
one
start
talking
Kirk
about
Cousins.
And the reason why is that I think what everybody's been talking about is that knee injury was more serious than anybody imagined.
All right, now this is something I've wanted to do for a while. I'm excited about this. All right, Mike's a Giants fan. I'm a Cowboys fan. Which team do you think is better this season? Mike, I want you to take the Cowboys. I'll argue for the... No, I'm just kidding. Mike, you can argue. Who do you think? You think the Giants are going to be better than the Cowboys? I'm going to argue the Cowboys are going to be better than the Giants. Explain to me why the New York Giants are going to win more games than the Dallas Cowboys this year.
You know, you scared me because when I used to teach the debate class, I actually would tell students, you now have to argue for something that you totally are against.
Right.
But you have to argue for it. So when you said, Mike, you argue for the Cowboys, I was like, I do think the Giants are going to be slightly better. And here's the reason why. Is I just think the Cowboys have lost too much on defense. I think they've lost too much on defense, not only with DeMarcus Ware leaving, but the Lee injury.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
a killer.
It's really going to be hard to recover. I don't think they're as strong in the defensive backfield. And Tony Romo's still the quarterback.
What's that mean?
And just like with Jay Cutler, I just don't think that Tony Romo is the quarterback that's going to get to the Cowboys to the promised land.
That's a fair point at this point in time.
I just don't think it's going to happen.
See, I still think I think at this point in time, Tony Romo's a better quarterback than Eli Manning. I think the Cowboys' offense this year is going to be one of the best in football. They have Dez, they have Terrence Williams, the young receiver, they have Cole Beasley, they still have Jason Witten and DeMarco Murray, and they still have Tyron Smith, 3 players who would start for any team in the NFL. This team and their defense, they have a new scheme on defense that is going to play more to the strengths of their corners in Carr and Claiborne and Skandrick, who, yes, is suspended, but he'll be back. He'll be fine. They still have Sterling Moore, who provides them with some depth, and I like their young linebackers. They brought in Rolando McClain from Baltimore. They have Anthony Hitchens, the 4th-round pick from Iowa, who's been fantastic this preseason. I think this defense would improve. It would be hard not to improve. But I think this team, and also you look at the Giants. The Giants were not as good as their 7-9 record last year. You look at some of the quarterbacks they beat, like Scott Tolzien. They beat Terrell Pryor. They beat Matt Barkley. They beat Kirk Cousins. The Giants are a good team. I'm not sure if they're better than they were last season, Mike.
They're a little bit better, only because you take the offensive linemen who were great for us in 2 Super Bowls but were older, and you replace them with much younger guys.
They just lost Jeff Schwartz, though.
No, but now Richburg is stepping up. And a lot of people are very, very excited about Richburg stepping in.
I have to admit, I did this for the sake of argument, but I agree. I think the Giants are going to be a better team than the Cowboys this season. I really like the Giants' defense this year.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
The Giants' defense is going to be excellent this season.
Hold on. 8/27, 2014. Mark and Sarah likes the Giants better than the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Wow.
This team, I really like their defense. They added Thurman. They added Rogers Cromartie. They have I love Jonathan Hankins. Jonathan Hankins will have a Pro Bowl caliber season at defensive tackle. And on their offense, I think their offense will be fine. Everyone's talking about all the struggles they've had in preseason. I think their running game is going to be better. I think the receiving core is solid. Their linebackers, they have a few question marks, but I really like the Giants' defense this season. They're going to be one of the best run-stopping teams in football. They're going to be a top 5 run-stopping defense this year.
You have more confidence in the Giants than I do.
Mm-hmm.
You really do. I mean, I do.
Well, that's an outsider's perspective, I think, that I provide.
Yeah.
I really like Jonathan. You think the defensive tackles, Hankins and Jenkins, which sounds like a law firm.
Yeah.
I think those two guys are going to be great this season.
300 pounders.
Jonathan Hankins is going to be a Pro Bowl caliber defensive tackle this season. He's been lights out in the preseason.
Well, my fingers are crossed on that one. I think one of the big question marks is the pass rush. JPP has not been what he's been in the past.
As a pass rusher.
Right. And also Matthias Kiwanuka has. And I think Kiwanuka is going to get to the quarterback. Yes, Kiwanuka will get to the quarterback this year. The key, though, is whether we see the breakout season of DeMontre Moore.
Matthias Kiwanuka is done.
No.
He was terrible last season.
You watch.
This is Matthias Kiwanuka's last season in New York.
He's going to have a great year this year.
We shall see, sir. We shall see. So who are your division winners in the NFC?
Okay, my division winners are Seattle.
All right.
The Saints, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
The Packers.
Yeah.
And I have to go with the Eagles in the NFC East.
All right,
ahead, Mark.
obviously Seattle. Has to be Seattle. Then the Saints, the Bears, and the Eagles. Who are your wild cards?
Okay, now my 2 wild cards, this is going to be difficult. I have to go with the Arizona Cardinals because I think it's going to be a very down year for the 49ers. And the New York Giants.
You think the Giants are a wild card? Wow.
I thought
I liked the Giants more than you did. I don't even think the Giants are a wild card.
I think there's going to be enough teams beating each other up in their other divisions, and I think there are some teams I don't think Carolina is going to be back in the playoff race.
100%.
I just think that Eli is going to surprise people who have been just destroying him in the preseason. But if the Giants do get a wild card, 9-7, 10-6.
Yeah, well, hey, that's all they needed to go to the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
I think that's all
who knows? San Francisco and Arizona, it's easy. There are no other teams that are up to the caliber of those 2 teams that aren't division winners. The Packers fans are going to be putting their cheese heads away for the winter this season. I don't see that team being that good. The East is just too low, and in the South, the Buccaneers will give a shot. Will take a shot at a wild card. But I don't think they're there yet.
You really are confident in that Buccaneer team.
I really like Lovie Smith as the coach. I love their receiving core with Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans. And like I said, I am sold on Josh McCown as their quarterback.
Oh, man. Josh McCown. I just
yeah, I know.
See it.
Mm-hmm. He's a rich man's Sean Hill.
All right, so now out of the clear blue.
Yeah. All right, I want to see who your conference. Who do you have as your conference
Super
title
Bowl.
game? Super Bowls?
I just want to talk about the Super Bowl. Forget the conference title game.
All right.
Let's just talk about the Super Bowl. Who's your matchup?
I like New Orleans out of the NFC. I think Seattle. I like Seattle, but I'm not sure if they're going to have this year. It's so tough to repeat.
Yes.
It's so tough to get back there. The AFC is such a crapshoot. It's interesting. I don't think the Broncos are as good as they were last season. I don't think the Patriots are a Super Bowl caliber team, and I think that's an illustration of how much better the NFC is than the AFC this season. This is so tough looking at who's going to come out of the AFC. I'm going to throw a wild card out there. I think it's the San Diego Chargers coming out of the AFC this season.
New Orleans versus San
Diego.
Here's my Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then you get to wrap it up. You ready? Arizona,
wow.
Takes on
again and again.
Takes on the Cincinnati Bengals.
I thought you were going to say the Giants.
No. No, the Arizona Cardinals take on the Cincinnati Bengals.
Really?
That's my Super Bowl this year.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is our NFL preview for the 2014 NFL season. You've been listening to The Sports Station. Thank you for tuning in. We ask you also to like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Also, be sure to check us out on Facebook. I am Mark and Sarah. Thank you so much for joining us. And for Mike Eccles, this is me signing off for The Sports Station.